light to the gods that answer after dark.
Today, I'm going to be discussing something that has become so dear to me. It definitely gives you the feel like what you just saw. Sometimes it makes you feel like you're in that century, that's I don't know, 18th century, French countryside, or the river is running by, the birds singing, you're in this garden, you're eating the lush fruits, that you have all this sort of life buzzing around you, and you just feel soft and delicate and so many other things, but you get the point. So today I'm going to be talking about The Invincible Life of Addie Larue. I was actually listening to a Dark Academia playlist on YouTube, and several persons in the comments, were saying, I don't know, this playlist just makes me feel like The Invincible Life of Addie Larue. It reminds me so much. Like, I just saw the comments, googled it, thought, okay, this is cool. This seems, like a nice fun read. So I did, and let me tell you, oh my god, I really love this book. I was totally submerged, didn't put it down unless I had to do something that I couldn't put off any longer. It was just so well written, so well developed. I love the character arc. I love the realism to it. I wouldn't quite say it's a fantasy book. There are some elements that is fantasy, of course, but there's not like werewolves and, I don't know, underworld creatures, vampires, fairies. It's more the transport that made her what she is. That was a fantasy part. The rest of it was, as relatable as it could get. So without further ado, let's get right into the video. I'm just gonna let you know, this will be full of spoilers. I'm not gonna be glossing over details, so if you don't like spoilers, please leave. But yes, what is the book about? Alright, so it's about this girl, Adeline Larue. She was born, I believe the year was 1691, in the countryside in France. So obviously it is that time era where women weren't really allowed to have dreams, weren't really allowed to be individuals themselves, or to think beyond the family. Basically, you're born at a certain age, you got married, had kids, you dedicated your life to taking care of the kids, taking care of the house, while your husband tends the fields or whatever it is that they do in those times. But essentially, you were an extension of your husband and your kids and your house, and that's it. So Addie grew up in this sort of environment. Our parents were the model for that. The community that she was in, Villan, was the model for that. But Addie was different. Addie had always felt that this was not the life that she envisioned for herself. She knew that there's a bigger, better world out there somewhere. She didn't quite know where, but she just thought that this could not be it. This could not be just me being born, auctioned off as chattel, had kids, and then die. So she wants more for herself, and it's not in that ultra feminist way where I want to be a writer, a doctor, I need to take over the world, I need to make my name known. Like, no, that's not what she wanted. She just wanted to live. She wanted to go beyond her little village. She wanted to eat that lushness that life had to offer. It wasn't a case where she was against love. No, she loved, but she really wanted to live first. She didn't want that to be our only purpose. So anyway, so obviously the time has come. Addie is now a young lady. She's appealing. It's now time for her to, branch out from her parents, get married, have kids, settle down. Her parents, like most parents in those days, has arranged a match for her. Addie doesn't know this man. She doesn't love this man. She seemed a decent enough bloke, but nothing that sets her heart on fire. So she knows that this is not it. She's gonna have to take care of this man's kids, have kids of her own, and then wither and die, basically, like she thinks her friend Isabel is doing. So she knows she doesn't want to be an Isabel. She more wants to be an Estelle, and Estelle is this lady in the community who refuses to get married. She's very much independent in the way she thinks. She might seem crazy to others, but to Adeline, she meals the world. She teaches Adeline so much. Adeline has grown to rely on the counsel of Estelle. Estelle teaches her about the old gods, about, in order to get these gods to be there for you, you really have to give them some sort of token. You really do have to make some sort of tribute, some sacrifice. She used to pray to the gods, the river gods, the tree gods, etc. But basically, just never pray to the gods that answer after dark. You don't know their intention. These are beings, entities that you should avoid. So now's the time for Addie to get married, right? The day has come, the evening has come. It's the evening of her wedding. She is in fits. She doesn't want to get married up. Her mother is braiding her hair. She's in her little wedding gown. Time is running out. She feels that time is running out. She's losing it. She's boiling. She's exploding inside. At the last minute, she makes a dash for it. She runs for the woods, offering any token that she can, and up until this point, she has given all that she could give to the gods that Estelle tells her about. She's given them her most treasured drawings, pieces of her soul that she thinks that she's written on these pages. Whatever token that she's found, she's given them. She escapes into the woods. It's evening. They're chasing after her with torches. The sun is going down, but she's not thinking. She's just desperate at this point not to be trapped in this life. So she runs into the woods, not knowing that dusk is falling. She's on the ground. She's praying. Please, God, please just answer me, help me, come to me, do something. And then this God appears. Addie has always drewn beforehand, or dream guy, or fantasy guy. When this God appears to her, the bastard that he is appears to her in the form of her ultimate guy. He takes the name that she has given to this fantasy guy, that his name is Luke. And she finds it funny that Luke ends up being almost short for Lucifer. At first, she doesn't quite know what she wants, So, in not thinking, just grasping at the first thing that comes to her, she said, okay, time. I just want time. I want to live. I want to explore. I want freedom. I don't want to be stuck to anyone. I don't want to be chained to anyone. And in the end, when she started off all of that, she would give him her soul. Like this God, this entity, being the little trickster that they are, everything is in the words, right? The words are the making. So he takes her words not at face value. He sort of moves in between them. So he gives her what she wants. You want freedom? You've got the freedom. You don't want to be tethered to anyone? You've got that. But there is a major drawback to it. For her to get freedom, she won't be remembered. She won't be able to leave a mark. She won't be really able to form lasting connections. She won't be able to have true lasting relationship. She will just be sort of a shadow in everyone's life. That sort of deep recess in their minds that maybe inspire them to do something that they can't quite put a finger on. But she won't be that tangible memory for persons. So the deal is done. Addie revives. She wakes up. She runs back home to her parents. They close their door. They throw her out. They don't remember her. They don't know who she is. She runs to Estelle. Estelle basically, shuns her. doesn't know who she is, left in a world, no family, no friends, no community. She learns later on, because of the memory aspect of her gift curse, you know, she's not able to get a job, because, you know, if you go to get a job the next day, your employer won't remember you, or as soon as they leave the room, she can't really have a home or rent a home. She's not able to write her name. She's not able to say her name. Any pictures of her that are taken, her face is blurred. Leave the 7 freckles that are on her face. That's maybe the only way you can identify her. Whenever she tries to tell her story, it just gets tied up in her throat. So there's no way for her to impart herself on anyone. So the first year for Addie, very, very difficult. She's not able to get a job. She has to resort to the lowest of lows, sell her body. She learns how to steal. She learns how to be quick about it. But eventually, you know, as the years goes on, as the centuries goes on, she learns how to navigate these gifts of hers. She's developed these sort of wiles, these sort of nuances to get what she wants. It's not always clean. It's not always pleasant. It's not always the honest thing to do, but in the end, it's the only thing she can do. Luke appears to her on the 1-year anniversary, you know, says, you know, are you ready to surrender? And Addie, I love Addie. Addie's a stubborn girl, so she goes, no, you know, she'll think she'll hold on a little longer. You know, she's not going to surrender her soul to this demon god. So she hangs on a little bit, and so each year he would visit her on that anniversary, and that's July 29th when she initially made the deal, to ask her, are you ready to surrender? Are you ready to give me your soul? And by virtue of this, Luke almost becomes the only constant in her life, the only one who remembers her, the only one that she can really communicate with. So she sort of over time relies on these anniversary dates. It's the only familiar thing that she has, right? And when you aren't allowed familiar things, when you aren't allowed memory, you will grasp onto the only thing that makes you feel like you. Even if that thing isn't the best thing, you will hold on to it. And I really, really love that about the story.
Forgive me, guys. I was here recording when my mic went out. Didn't notice, so I'm just gonna do the voiceover. So as we read on in the book, we see slowly where Adeline's relationship with Luke moves from hatred, she hates its guts, to apathy, doesn't really feel anything for him, then to sort of longing. You know, Luke is there for her in her mournful moments when she's mourning Estelle. He basically rescues her when she lands in unscrupulous situations during wartime period in France. He takes her to the best operas, he brings her to the best plays, eat at the most exquisite restaurants. So Luke slowly over time becomes someone that she treats with derision to someone that she has desire for. You know, you see them playing out these power games with each other because, you know, foreplay. You see Addie try to convince herself that she's not falling for him, and she does this extensively because, you know, foreplay. We saw where she looks for weak spots to throw her verbal jabs with him. He pretty much does the same. He will play these games with her where he sort of throws her in trouble with the people around her. Again, foreplay. So we see all of this playing out. They obviously become romantically involved, and it's everything Addie has ever dreamed of at this point, guys. The build-up has been so slow, so exquisite. When they finally come together physically, it's this great cathartic moment. It's hot, it's spicy, it's sweaty, it's everything. Addie is finally happy for the longest time in her life. She admits that, you know, sometime even without her noticing, she no longer hates Luke, but quite the opposite. She thinks that Luke is home, and just about everything that you could expect until, you know, they've had this big fallout. So they haven't really spoken for each other for like 30 or 40 years. And just when Addie has finally moved on, then Luke makes his reappearance, and that's in 2014. It's now 2014. She's developed the hobby of reading, so she goes into this bookstore that she's discovered. Addie starts reading book, decided, okay, she doesn't really like the book. She goes back to the bookstore to return the book. The following day, she's devised this sort of plan in her mind as to how she's gonna return the book, pretends that, you know, it was a gift and she doesn't want it, so she want to exchange it for another book. And the guy's like, are you kidding me? He goes, I remember you. And hearing I remember you after 300 years of being utterly forgettable, it just throws her aback. Her world is off axis. She's shaken. She doesn't know what to do. She's frozen. 300 years and someone has said, I remember you. And I think in the book she says 3 words, just 3 words to change the world or to move the world off its axis. And that's essentially, you know, where the story picks up with her meeting Henry. And of course, you're just shocked. Think, okay, what is it about this guy? Is he some sort of god? Does he have some sort of special abilities? And so Addie and Henry, they get to know each other. They start to date. You know, she finds out about the deal that Henry has made, which is basically how he's able to remember her. For a quick recap on Henry's deal, he tries to kill himself. Luke comes in the nick of time, spares him, decide that he'll give Henry 1 more year, condition that of course Henry surrenders his soul at the end of this 1 year period, because Henry was just so depressed and thought that he was just not worthy anymore of life and love, and I'll tell you why. He has his little self-pitying party going on, but after a while it's like, dude, come on. Yes, your parents are disappointed with you because, you know, you skipped like 10 majors in college. You're not focusing on the future, so they don't really know what you're about. So yes, they are disappointed. Your girlfriend, when you proposed to her after 2 years, you know, instead of agreeing to marry with you and having a lifeless marriage, she was honest enough, even though it was painful, to say, okay, long term you're not what I'm looking for, so she can't accept your proposal. Dude, that does not give you the sort of permission to say, I'm just gonna wallow in self-pity. Granted, it does sound like he has some depression going on. You know, he takes his little pink umbrellas, which is his happy pills that he gets from his sister. But come on, Henry, you have to fight. Stop falling into I'm a victim mentality. But Henry just sits down going, no one loves me. No one loves me. No one loves me. Like, bruh, I'm tired of it. Henry to me he's as exciting as chalk. Like, I think Henry would have been much more interesting, as a character if he actually died. With the deal that he made with Luke, I think that would have actually gave Henry maybe an advantage or a level of, I don't know, interest or something. But Henry just seems so pedestrian to me. I'm sorry. I wasn't rooting for Henry. He was kind of like, To me, he was the guy who first remembered Addie. That's the essentially what Henry is to me. And I don't think Addie, in her heart of hearts, really loves Henry. I think she wants to love Henry. But I think what Henry is to Addie, and I think I wrote it down here. I wrote, Henry felt like a safe place rather than love. I think Addie not only liked him but actually appreciated him, was maybe even thankful for him because he actually remembers her. I think he's the safe version of Luke, to be honest. I mean, he's a good guy, don't get me wrong, but he didn't really do it for me. But Luke is a villain written after my own heart. Is he selfish? Yes. Is he cruel? Yes, he can be. Is he a sociopath? Probably. But is he utterly delicious? I'm not exaggerating. Luke is just, I don't know. I'm really trying to find the love that I should have for Henry. I'm gonna have to get a compass and a shovel. I'm not finding it. But for Luke though, they're now in July, so Addie has been in a relationship with Henry for a little bit. They're seemingly contented, finding happiness. It's drawing closer
to that night, to that 1 year mark for Luke to reap Henry's soul, like a desperate bid, you know, to save Henry. Addie agrees to have dinner with Luke, where she's gonna try to change the terms of Henry's deal, whatnot. God knows why. Luke is, you know, as any god man would be, annoyed that she keeps bringing up this pedestrian human lover that he doesn't really see anything special about him. He considers Henry so dull. Spoiler.
She keeps going at it. They both keep going at it. Luke is now annoyed. Luke is blurts out, because you're mine. And you know, Addie's like, oh no, I'm not. And it must hurt you to not always be able to get what you want. And guys, here comes one of the best declarations I've ever heard or ever read in a book. Wasn't overly done, but it was so passionate. It was like, want? I don't want you. Want is for children. If it was just want, I would have been done with you centuries ago. I need you, and need is patient. Need is love, and yada yada yada. I love you and you love me. And oh my god, it was just such an epic scene. Just no words.
Yeah, and I think whenever you're reading a book, whenever you're reading any piece of writing, even if it's something so simple, or perhaps it is so simple, yet it resonates so deeply within you, yet it makes you pause. I think, you know, okay, you're onto something. You're not just writing some fiction. You're writing something relatable. You're writing something that's almost tangible from those pages. So there's some quotes, there are some dialogues that I loved, and I'm gonna share them. Addie has she has this one night stand with this guy called Toby. Only Toby for her is not a one night stand. She's been seeing him for the past, I think, months. Toby obviously doesn't remember her, but she remembers all, you know, encounters, all their little meet cute. And the last morning that she is with him, you know, she feels just so hollow. You're thinking, okay, how many times am I gonna have a do-over with this guy? How many mornings is she gonna wake up next to him? He's gonna wake up, look at her with that vacant, almost apologetic expression in his eyes. I don't remember you, I don't know you. So at this point, you know, there's moments that she feels so alive, and there's moments that she feels so broken. And this was one of those moments where she says, you know, because she has spent weeks getting to know him, and he has spent hours forgetting her. And I was like, oh my god. And at a certain point, for the first 50 years, of course, she's seen semblance of her old life. She's seen her mother, who is now old and near death, and she's seen Isabel's kids who's grown up, and she's basically doing a walkthrough. She says there is George Thorold in Roger's oldest daughter and Isabel's two sons, and the next time Addie comes, they will all be dead. The last of her own life, her first life, buried in the same 10-meter plot. And it just, I don't know, it made me kind of sad reading this. She's essentially saying, you know, when she goes back, she's gonna see everyone that she grew up with, you know, in her first life. You know, they're old, who has died without seeing the world, without going beyond Villan, their little village. They won't really know of art and beauty and music, and that they'll just born, live, die, that's it, in that same sort of 10-meter plot. And it's always almost been like a fear of mine. It struck a chord with me. You know, there's a line in Game of Thrones, there's a dialogue that Prince Oberyn had. You know, it's a big and beautiful world. Most of us live and die in the same corner that we are born and never get to see any of it. I don't want to be most of us. And it just struck a chord, because yes, it speaks to me. That's always been my biggest fear. I want to be an 80-year-old wrinkled old, if you may, with a belly full of laugh and a mind full of adventures and old stories of a life that is well lived. So there's just so much things, so much art, so much beauty, so much music, so much color, so much life for you to really live, that I want to live. And so when Addie says this, you know, there is George Thorold and Roger's oldest daughter and Isabel's 2 sons, and the next time Addie comes, they would all be dead. The last of her old life, the first life, buried in the same 10-meter plot. I just went, yeah. This is what I meant when I say that it's not all fantasy, because there's just so much human element, so much yearning and desires and zest and sorrow and despair, that it feels so real, so well written. The question is asked, what is a person if not the marks they leave behind? And sure, we can take it at face value and like, true, yeah. But I don't think anyone, even the most selfless persons, would like to say, yeah, and when I die or when I leave this earth, I don't want to be remembered. I don't need to be remembered. I'm just, no. You do the things you do for love. You do it to get to be remembered. You do it to be valued. Even if you help someone privately, no one knows about it, you don't advertise it, it's not 100% altruistic, because you'd still at the end get that feel good of knowing in yourself that you helped someone, that you made a change. And so that is essentially like a mark you leave behind. He takes her to see some plays and Addie is just mesmerized, right? And so Luke says, can you guess which one of them is mine? Which basically is saying, you know, can you guess which one of the actors on the stage did a deal with me? And Addie asks, okay, are you here to take their soul tonight? And no, Luke says, not tonight, but very soon. Addie says, why would anyone trade a lifetime of talent for a few years of glory? Because time is cruel to all, and even crueler still to artists. Because vision weakens and voices withers and talent fades. Because happiness is brief and history is lasting. And in the end, he says, everyone wants to be remembered. There are nights when she cannot sleep, moments when she lies awake and dreams of dying. But then she wakes, she sees the pink and orange dawn against the clouds, or hear the lament of the lone fiddle, the music and the melody, and she remembers that there is such beauty in the world, and she does not want to miss it, any of it. I think that we can all relate, you know, whether you're a parent and you struggle with anxiety and depression and you just want to give in, you want to cave, you want to not care anymore, but then you hear, you know, the laughter of your baby, the way they run to hug you, or, you know, maybe you're sick and you're in pain and you see the sunset, you see the clash of colors that maybe should not have really existed in nature, and in that brief moment, you know, you get a dash of hope that, oh, I want to overcome this, I want to not be in pain so much because I want to live to see this another day. Or maybe you're in somewhere war torn, or maybe there's famine, or there's some epidemic. You're gathered around the fire with members of your community, someone is singing a traditional song, and in that moment you feel so a part of something, of a group, that it makes you, it gives you that small little headway in saying, okay, I want to stay alive. V.E. Schwab, you did a phenomenal job. For those who are watching, I would say, if you are to read this book, read it while playing like a dark academia playlist in the background. Any dark academia, it makes the experience so much more exquisite. There are a couple tunes that were playing in my head when I was listening. You have Finding Melody by Gavin Luke, Don't Forget Me, Like the Tunnel on the Ocean Boulevard by Lana Del Rey, and I think, you know, the essence of that song that Lana Del Rey sings, that she doesn't want to be forgotten. Remember her, don't let her go into obscurity like the Tunnel on the Ocean Boulevard. I think that was a big thing for Addie, so I had that playing in my mind. I had Bel Air also by Lana Del Rey playing in my mind. Table for Two that played in Nocturnal Animals, I believe. So there are so much different feels, and each of these songs I mentioned obviously does provide a totally different feel, but an exquisite book.